the time.
Yeah, I have to really watch it with you, Will, because you start. Kitty does it too. You guys start good conversations in the back room. I'm like, wait, stop! Don't talk about that anymore. Let's go live and talk about it.
Hey, you told me to stop, and I stopped.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So, Kitty, you were saying that someone was saying because you're a white atheist and what else? That you're a automatic racist? Oh, liberal.
Basically,
that makes sense because all the liberals are all the ones fighting for everybody's rights.
Yeah, no, they said I was triple racist because I'm a white liberal atheist, and that there are peer-reviewed studies that show that 97% of white atheists are racist.
Okay, so
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true unless people are closeted. Because of all the atheists I know, I don't think any of them, well, except for like one or two that I recently found out about, are racist. They must all be closeted and only saying it on surveys properly.
So, hi, Mr. Shadow. Hi, how's it going, Mr. Shadow Kitty?
Hi.
I have two quick points on that. I sometimes we forget that when we join a group or we switch into another organization or we put a different label on ourselves, it's still a reflection of society. So
absolutely,
if you call yourself an atheist, there's still people of all creeds and colors, and it's going to be a reflection of the society that they came from, especially people that came from repressed religions. I run into that with a lot of ex-Muslims. I grew up very rigidly, so I identify with people like that. Like, there's certain things they still adhere to, even though they don't believe in the religion, Right. So I think also nowadays, if somebody doesn't like someone else, they call them racist or a bigot, or it's a cop-out,
Absolutely. And they were going off on Randolph when Randolph was just like, cite the peer-reviewed sources that you claim to have. And they're like, I'm not citing anything for you. And it's like, okay, then we have to go on the assumption that those sources don't exist if you're not willing to cite them, And then they went off saying, oh, well, check the OP. They cited an article. So I go to the original poster who was talking about how atheism is racist. And the only thing that the OP had cited was a Newsweek article talking about how Richard Dawkins was Islamophobic. And I'm like, Dawkins isn't all atheists. Dawkins is an asshole. And that does not have any studies linked to it or anything. It literally is just Dawkins is Islamophobic because he called Islam a cancer. So, then the person that we're having this back and forth with, they do link a Washington Post article in the thread that me and Randolph are in. And in it, the article does actually reference a study, which I read the article, then I went and I looked at the study. And they even say in the article that it's preliminary, but the study was basically saying that in certain social situations, white liberals will dumb down their speech when talking to people of color. And they were trying to see if it was maybe, they kind of had like inherent stereotypes or things like that might have affected that. So they might say, if they thought the person that they were talking to was white, then they might say for the book club meeting, use the word melancholy, rather than if they thought they were black, they would use the word sad. And it's one of those things that even if everything in the study that was asserted was completely accurate, it would show a blind spot in white liberals in that, they're still influenced by stereotypes in society, but that doesn't make them racist. And it has nothing to do with atheism, because atheism wasn't once mentioned in that study. It was literally talking about white liberals and white conservatives, because white conservatives, they didn't dumb down their speech because they didn't care. It's like they weren't like reaching out trying to like communicate with people of minorities as much anyway. And one of the other things they looked in the study was political speeches of politicians when they were talking to different crowds and checking the wording and phrasing that was used by the politicians, depending on whether they were in front of a predominantly white or predominantly minority crowd. And I mean, it's interesting, and I think that it could be a point for self-reflection, but I don't think it implies inherent racism, and it certainly isn't proof that atheism is racism or is racist, because atheism had nothing to do with the study whatsoever.
So recently, there's someone who said some racist things to me. I don't think that person's racist. I think they were trying to get my goat, So yeah. I think a lot of the time, that thing about liberals is really interesting though, because I work around a lot of hillbillies, and like when it comes to like something about like with the plumbing or something at my job, they'll talk straight over my head, but they don't dumb it down. And there are certain people that I deal with that start talking a little slow because they think I'm a complete cave person, But I don't think that's a liberal or I don't know. So I don't always think people are racist.
That's just environmental, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're racist. It just means they grew up in an environment where there were racist people.
Exactly.
And they got used to speaking. That doesn't even, because I've had friends that I've caught doing stuff like that, and they were good people and were not racist, like for sure. I knew them for years, and they would do that. And I was kind of like, that must just be me. It must just be me. Like I wasn't sure if it was just my imagination or not.
Jen told me when we first started talking, there were a few insensitive things that I would say, and that's just being an American. We identify people by their race. So she said, hey, in Australia, we don't talk like that.
Yeah, because like here, for instance, someone will say, well, do you mention in an argument about racism, do you mention people's skin color? Well, only if I have to identify them.
Yeah.
Like, hey, can you go help that guy over there with the dark hair? No, the black dude, not the white dude. Like, I'll do that, but I don't do it like, I saw a woman at the store. She was black, because I've seen people do that shit. She was black, by the way. That's part of the story. You have to know that. Like, that's how they say it, which is ridiculous. And I just want to say one thing. The bottom line is this. I've been in all different kinds of groups. I've been in atheist groups, Christian groups, drinking groups, people that want to drink, people want to do drugs. I've hung out with different kinds of people throughout my entire life. Truck drivers, secretaries, it doesn't matter. And there's one thing I've found is in every group, there's assholes.
Yep.
And in every group, there's racists. It doesn't matter what group it is. It doesn't matter. It's just like, you look at the white population, you got this much that are racist, this much that aren't, this much that just don't give a fuck. And they never said anything about it. And that's with every fucking group. You can't just say, oh, you're white, or you're from Saudi Arabia, so you're prejudiced automatically because you're white or you're one of the Saudis and you just hate people, or whatever. You can't do that.
I kind of think it's inherent in humans, because I lived in Sinaloa, Mexico with family members, and people segregate themselves by what color they are. So the darker skinned Hispanics will not associate with the light skinned Hispanics. It's the weirdest thing, because they still look Spaniard, even though they're all Mexican. Everybody there is Mexican and born there. It's the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest thing.
That is weird to me, because at least here we have different cultural and ethnic backgrounds. So we're America's a melting pot. So here I kind of understand more that separation. And it's not, and I don't even think it's a racist thing. I think with some people, they just feel more comfortable with somebody that's the same color as them. I don't think it's necessarily like,
well, I'm going to tell you.
I don't think they intentionally think about it, is what I'm saying.
So
I don't think that they sit there and go, oh, I'm not going to hang out with any black people. I think it's in the back of their head somewhere in their subconscious, and they just are guided more towards white people. Because I've seen that happen with myself, and you know me well. I don't give a fuck what color you are.
Yeah, but I was kind of the same way when I left this town. I had never really lived around people of color that weren't my family members. You know? So when I went out in the world, when I lived in Arizona, it was an all white neighborhood. That was the first place I moved out to. And then I moved to LA, and it was all black and Hispanic. And it was
like, what the fuck?
Well, you know what? I blended in, so people treated me accordingly, but it was culture shock. But I will tell you, like, people treated me with respect. They called me skateboard because I stuck out because I had a skateboard, but like
Skateboard.
people treated me with respect. And I lived on Hoover Street in Los Angeles, which is one of the toughest streets in LA, So I don't know. It's one of those weird things.
See, it's just we're products of our environment. And that's why I keep telling people, I understand that you don't want your kids to like believe in just religion or just atheism, or you want them to explore. But then if you're biased at home, then they're going to be biased because that's how you raised them.
Just like my son
That's
identifies.
what you're left with.
If you ask my son what religion he is, he'll say he's an atheist. And it's because he's hung out with me, and it's not. I've never once told him anything. I've let him, ask his own questions. He was like, I want to go to church. I took him, and he's like, okay, let's go home. It's not for everybody.
A friend of mine that I've known since elementary school. I mentioned this on your stream last night, Will, about the whole Santa Claus thing. Well, they were doing the same tack with religion. They weren't going to endorse any religion because they're atheists, but they weren't endorsing atheism either. And they actually went to like a youth group or something, I forget, and like this was when they were in like first grade, and like they came home and they were like, yeah, they taught us about God today. Sounds like BS. Like, first grader. And my buddy's just like, that's my girl. Secretly, like in his head, he's like, but we weren't going to push atheism on them. We were just going to raise them without religion and, teach them about religions from like a comparative religion, cultural, historical perspective, not endorsing any one. And that's what I plan on doing.
But if you're raising them without religion, you're automatically pushing them towards atheism.
Because
if you didn't so if you didn't discuss, like, let's say you're at home, you don't ever discuss any kind of religion, right? But on Sundays, you take the kid to one church, and then a different church, and then a different, and then you talk to him about atheism. Now that's fair, but nobody's going to do that. I want to go to a church. Fuck that.
Well, I did that in a way with the internet, because when I was younger, I talk about this all the time. I totally wanted to be a Nation of Islam Muslim. I just liked how they stood on street corners. They were powerful. They wore nice suits, and they smoked a lot of weed. Like I always say, I never knew that I couldn't eat pork. That was literally the first thing I was like, nope, can't be a Muslim or a Jew.
Yeah. Gotta have my bacon, bitch. No, I ain't gonna do it.
But because of the internet, I watch a lot of stuff, and my son is in the room, and so he's seen all religions. I still see it's me now, because my son, because of me, will watch like religious stuff, and he'll start pointing out what he thinks is wrong. Right. So when they start saying mythological things, he's like, did that guy really crack a moon in half? Did Jesus really walk on water? But it raises those questions, That's the important thing.
Say about Jesus walking on water, I always say, well, yeah, he just gave them a bunch of wine. They're all drunk. He's probably just standing on a sandbar. They have no idea because they're all sloshed off this wine. They're like, dude, he's walking on water, man.
I've been there.
Give me another drink. I can't believe this shit.
And another thing, because my son has ASD, I don't want him to be gullible. So there's a lot of things I tell him, like, this is straight butkus. If people tell you this to get you in a building, it's a cult. If they tell you this to work harder, because I don't want him to be duped. In LA, the Church of Scientology has a place called the Dream Center, and they bring people in, and you have to sign a contract, and they basically own you. And I feel it's mentally disabled people that fall for that,
I mean, religion finds people at the most vulnerable, either because of mental disability or because they've got cancer or they were just assaulted or someone in their family just died. Most people that weren't brought up in religion, that find religion later in life, that I've seen, it was after some sort of trauma or when they were at their lowest. Maybe they were homeless or, again, they lost somebody important to them. And I don't have, any like data to back that up. It's just my observation. And it's possible it's not true, but it really does seem like when people who find religion later in life tell you their story, there's always some heartache or tragedy attached to it before they found that religion. And if it brings them comfort, if it brings them peace, I don't care as long as it stays contained in them. Like, I'm an anti-theist, but I don't want to take away everybody's religious beliefs. I'm hoping that eventually we'll all outgrow them, but I don't want to like ban or outlaw religion. My issue is mostly with organized religion and the church and the way that they prey on people and the way that they promote, you know, toxic ideologies. Like what an individual person believes, I don't care. But their religion should end at the tip of their nose and have no influence on anybody else around them. Be it their kids or their community through legislation.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's how's that saying go? Yeah, okay, you're proud of your religion. I'm proud of my dick too, but you don't see me shoving in people's faces.
Its religion is like a penis. It's great to have one. It's great to be proud of it, but you know, don't go waving it around in public. And for the love of God, don't shove it down our kids' throats.
Thank you. My notes? I like that. I like that one better. That one step into pedophilia, but it's okay. It was still extremely sarcastic, so I appreciated it. Hi, Jen.
Hi.
How are you?
Pretty good. Like my hole in the roof.
Yeah, no, that's not bad though. That looks like only like a half a sheet.
Yeah, exactly.
So I would just cut it along the roof joist, halfway down the middle of the roof joist, and just cut it out with a sharp knife,
you just replace
utility
the piece
knife.
That's,
yeah, just faulty. Replace that one piece.
My problem is going to be that the join bit, the fancy join bit, because I don't think I'll be able to get one that's like it.
You know, I wish I was there because I have.
If it's mounted correctly, you should be able to take it down and put it back up without destroying.
Except it's also damaged.
Okay.
Can you repair it in place?
Like cracked, broken, or
as in
swollen,
like the plaster's washed out of it? Yeah, as in destroyed. Yeah.
Oh, it's plastered.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
It's a plastic. Is that an Alcatraz or what is that called?
Is that in that picture?
Yeah.
That you sent me? Okay, let me go check.
Your internet is 10 times better today.
I found a better way to plug the phone.
It looks amazing. It looks amazing compared to yesterday. I miss your face. Hi.
Hi.
Aww.
I'm sorry, I will wake up because I've been arguing with somebody who doesn't think they're a bigot, but they are.
I was gonna bring that up, but we started talking about race, so I was all in.
You missed it, Jen. I got called triple racist for being white, liberal, and an atheist by somebody that says that atheism is inherently racist and 97% of white atheists are racist.
So does that make me a double racist? Because I'm a lefty?
I've been arguing with somebody who's in our community because they keep posting anti-trans women in sports stuff and doing posting some really bad takes on trans people and then say, but I'm not transphobic. And I go, well, you're fucking behaving like you are, even if you don't think you are. But aside from that, their argument was, I've got four women who are friends who are doing two women who are friends who are doing a self-defense class, and 4 trans women joined that class, and they didn't feel safe, so they left. So that proves that trans women shouldn't be in women's sports. And I go, hang on, you're talking about a self-defense class here. What the fuck has that got to do with doing sports in the first place? And secondly, if they left because of their own bigotry, not because they were in any danger.
Exactly. I said it before, I'll say it again. Like this fucking transphobia stuff, like I would much rather be in a shower with 100 trans women than with one fucking bigot. Or fucking, scary Republican asshole.
and let me give you a good example. I mean, I know I'm intersex, and perhaps I'm not the best example. But let's say there was going to be a punch-up between me and B. I would guarantee you B would kick my fucking ass. And I've done martial arts. But B's guns are amazing. B would kick my fucking ass.
Nice gun, Toby.
These are small. I haven't been to the gym in years. These are just what I have normally.
Mine.
I don't know. It depends on if you're a biter or not. Because if you bite me, I'll run. I hate being bit.
There's lots of reasons for advantages in sport. And there is more differences within the sport in people's personal advantages than there are between the sexes. I mean, we split sport down the we split sport as male and female, but that's not actually the best way to split a lot of sports. You'd be better off splitting sports by physical characteristics other than sex.
I would love a basketball
doesn't
league
make
with
any
people.
sense.
I would love a basketball league with people all my height.
Yeah, exactly. And then,
That would
if
be
you
awesome.
split basketball by height, you'd actually make more sense than splitting it by men and women. And that's the thing, that most of these arbitrary splits we have. I mean, the thing that most people don't understand is men and women's sports weren't split for the sake of women. They were split because men didn't want to compete with women in case the women beat them.
Oh, that's the way it's always been. We know that.
It is. It was,
You
an
know, so what
entirely
you're saying-
sexist thing to start off with.
So what you're saying is what they should do it like the boxers. Go by height, weight, how much you can lift, your muscle mass.
Exactly.
And then,
Yeah,
yeah, that would be
difference would
fair.
there be?
Then the little scrawny kid could get off the bench and play football.
Exactly. But I mean, even in contact sports, people go, "Oh, you can't have men and women compete." Well, you could if it was all based on body type. Men and women of the same body type can compete. It's just on average, men are bigger and more muscly than women.
For
But
fuck's
if
sake.
you compare the same
See,
body
but-
type, you could compete in complete fairness. But you will never have that in sport because that's not what the men who pay for the sport want.
See, but
No, that's true. That's true. Like, look at me, and then you look at my friend who happens to be my landlord, and they are Collins and they them. Their arms are like this big around.
olive
Little
oil.
scrawny ass wiry person. I mean,
Oh,
I
Bobby
can
Allen.
totally see there's some
Why?
muscle there. I could totally kick their ass. They couldn't compete against me in a sport that's physical, like a physical
Exactly.
in chess. Yes, Colin can kick my ass at chess. It's true.
I mean,
He's
exactly.
very intelligent. They're very.
You know,
I'm not-
and I think it's
I'm
really
tallish for a woman because I'm 5'8", so I'm tallish for a woman, but I'm not the tallest out there. But I would trounce any woman who's shorter than me in some sports, and be absolutely trounced by any woman who's so big is taller than me in those same sports, depending on whether height was an advantage or not. But that's got nothing to do with being trans or intersex or whether you're cis or anything. That's purely on body build. It's got nothing to do with gender or sex at all.
One of the toughest people I've ever known in my life was a woman named Lori. She was 6'4". She was my old boss at Carl's Jr. in good old downtown Portland, Oregon, 20 years ago. But she literally, like, I had been through a lot, and that woman taught me how to stand up for myself. She said, no, if someone talks shit to you, tell them to get the hell out. If somebody, like, people pulled guns on her, I watched her knock out a grown man in one punch. One punch. Some guy threatened her, and she was like, boom, and he was on the floor. I literally just took him outside because he was asleep.
I mean,
It's not about
unless you're fighting in heavyweight. Fighting is about technique and not about strength. It really is.
And she was stronger than me, and I don't mess around. I work out, and she was stronger than I am.
Back before my disability, like back when I was in high school, because I developed my disability when I was 19. So I've lived with it most of my life now. But back in high school, there were only 2 guys on the varsity football team that could out leg press me. Like, I could wrap my legs around a guy's fucking chest and constrict them like a snake and literally, like, make them pass out from lack of oxygen. I would trounce the kids
I'm getting
in the
turned on.
neighborhood.
No,
I would trounce the kids in the neighborhood when we play tackle football in the undeveloped field at the front of the neighborhood. Like, even in martial arts, going up against, adult men that were, way taller and had good 60 plus pounds on me. And all I had to do was get them down on the mat, and then I made them my bitch because I was wiry and flexible, and I could weave in and around them like a fucking snake until I ended up getting them in a hold that they just needed to tap out of. Like,
exactly.
So it is entirely possible depending on what you're doing. Like football, yeah, I mean, I probably could have gotten hurt because, like, a lot of the guys that were playing, it was mostly guys I was playing with, were a lot bigger than me. But, I had decent muscle mass, and, I I knew how to take them down too, where, you know, I would come at them and know how, if I were going to tackle them, you know, to basically throw them off of their center of gravity, because again, the martial arts helped with that. So having good technique for that helped compensate for my lack of size and weight. But again, you know, it was playful and fun, not like pro-competitive or anything like that.
Right.
And like, I don't talk on the whole trans and sports thing because I one, don't know that much about the topic. I've seen a lot flying back and forth, and I would just say I'm not really into sport. So look at the research, look at the data, and whatever the data says, go with that. You know, like I think people getting like their egos involved in it is really dumb, because like I know there is research and I know there's data, and we should follow the science, not like what people's feelings say.
Exactly.
I know this is anecdotal, but when I was in high school, I dated a girl that ended up being on the USA soccer team. She was a goalie. I've been this height since I've been this height for a while, but we were the exact same size. I was more buff back then, and she could bench press more than I could, you know, and
That's
I don't know
unusual.
if it was, we had the same frame. We were literally the same size, you know, and she worked
it's
out.
not the amount of muscle or even the amount of bone mass that a woman can put on compared to men. It's just testosterone makes it easier for men to put it on than it does for women. So women have to work harder for the same amount. But trans women don't have the testosterone. So they have to work just as hard as cis women to maintain body mass and that. I find it funny because the latest research pans out what I was saying a couple of years ago when Rationality Rules put up his video. And I said, look, the reality is puberty takes 3-5 years to happen. If you try to reverse puberty by taking HRT, it's going to take a long time for all the full effects to take on. And what happened was there was a study done in the UK. Was it UK? Yes, I think it was the UK, where they studied people in the military, where they who are obviously, you're talking about people who are training all the time in peak physical fitness and are maintaining physical fitness. And they found enough people who are transitioning within the military to get a base study so that they could compare those who didn't transition with those who did. They had people transitioning both ways, and they could study the effects thereof.
Nice.
So what they found was that after 12 months, O2 capacity, so the amount of oxygen you can take in, most of the upper body strength and etc. has leveled out between trans women and cis women. Lower body strength, so the strength in your legs and that isn't so much, and endurance hasn't completely changed either. At the end of 2 years on HRT, endurance is exactly the same for the trans women as it is for the cis women. And at the end of 3 years, there's some trans women maintain a small percentage of improvement in in leg strength. A small percentage. It is fucking. It's about 3%, I think, that they think that's maintained. But it is still dropping at that point. So they think that out to once you get past about 4 or 5 years, there is absolutely zero difference between a trans woman and a cis woman in what they think performance should be for that body type. And at 3 years, there's virtually not enough difference that you could even worry about it. So anybody who's spent 3 years on hormones transitioning, there shouldn't be a question about whether you've got an advantage competing, because pretty much you don't. Even out to 2 years in the majority of sports, it's not going to make any difference. That little bit of leg strength difference could be made, just means that they didn't have to train quite as hard to have that little bit of extra leg strength, and it's a minor difference. And it won't make any difference over endurance or anything else. So if you're talking team sports where you got to play for a few hours, it makes zero difference. If you're talking about long distance running, it makes no difference. It might make a difference on sprinting, or if you're lifting weights, because you need the lower body strength as well as the upper body strength.
Right.
But aside from that, it would make absolutely zero difference in any sport. And this is for people who were training before and continued training and then went on. Most trans people aren't that. they weren't hugely physically fit when they started transition. They took up the sport to aid with their transition. So they didn't get the advantage of building up that muscle as before they transitioned. So their long-term advantage actually reduces a lot quicker. So for people who went into sport after transitioning, that 2 to 3 years is probably all they need to be completely on an even playing field. As far as I'm concerned, that particular study ends the question. My only thing would be exactly what I'd said a few years ago. I don't think waiting 12 months on hormones is long enough. I think it needs to be at least 2 years. And I think that pans out in the studies. 2 to 3 years, depending on the sport, is what's required before you come back in. But I think that's only applicable if you're competing at a professional level where you could be taking titles and stuff like that. I don't think that's applicable if you're just competing at a social level. I think 12 months is perfectly fine at a social level. 12 months on HRT, go for it. Go do whatever you want. You just can't maintain a title or win any prizes.
I also think, though, what Kitty said was important, though, about the emotions behind it, because Jen, you literally just gave us the science behind it, and someone's gonna come back with some stupid emotional response.
The main thing of, but see, like completely straw manning Jen's thing
exactly.
of you need 12 months for non-professional, 2 to 3 years for professional. And they're going to be like, but what about a guy that just says it, they identify and never take hormones?
But you see, it doesn't work that way because the requirement at the moment is to have taken hormones.
Yeah.
Okay, if you were going to say, we're going to remove that hormone requirement, then I think, you've got a right target. But again, it goes back to what we were talking about before. I don't think we separate sports the correct way anyway. There is nothing inherently fair about the way sport is done at the moment. If you are not exactly the right build for what you want to do in sports, fuck off. You can't compete anymore.
Yep.
That's done. That's not fair. Sports is never about fairness. It's about trying to find out who does the best at something.
And
so
also
why
in America,
if that's a trans woman instead of a cis woman. Because
in
a lot of cases, this isn't going to make any difference anyway. We're both women, so it's still a woman who wins this competition or holds that record. If you're saying it's not, then I'm sorry, you've just highlighted your bigotry, and I'm sorry. We're like,
you're trying to erase trans women as women, as long as and that's the thing. As long as the science backs up that there's no unfair advantage with the way sports are, delineated now, then I don't really see the issue. I really don't. The only thing that is left once you account for what the science says to have issue with it is if you're bigoted. I really don't see a third option. Either you accept the science and then you accept trans women as women, which is another thing that science shows. I remember reading about, the brain scans of, women.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, because the brain
men who
scans
identify
of
as
trans
a woman,
women those that identify as women, they more closely resemble the brain scans of cis women, and vice versa for trans men, and their brain scans are closer to cis men than they are to their the biological sex, like the gender they were assigned at birth.
Sex, yes.
Yeah. It's not just the way the structures of the brain work as well. It's the way the brain fires when responding to certain things. There was this group of tests done where they put people in a functional MRI and bombarded them with stimuli, and they watched what parts of the brain react to certain stimuli. And trans people's brain, the areas of the brain that react to the same things, is congruent with their gender identity and not their birth sex.
Damn it.
So it's even the parts of our brain that function differently between men and women are reversed for trans people.
Yeah.
And they actually think that, and I don't like this, they think they could be used as a diagnostic tool to prove that if a child is trans or not. I don't like that because we don't know enough about it to know that this is actually the be-all and end-all. But I do like it in the sense that if this enables one trans child to not have to fight the bureaucracy of letting them have their own blockers,
I know.
that's a good thing.
It's that double-edged sword.
It's a double-edged sword. Yeah, if you have a
someone-
diagnostic tool.
if it's on the line, or if there's
do.
any dispute in what the brain scan shows, then it would make life way harder for
For that
trans
individual.
youth that might really need the transition, or
and
what have
it
you.
can become a tool of the right in saying, okay, we accept trans people, but only if they meet these diagnostic criteria.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that becomes a form of othering as well. And I don't like that. I find that abhorrent that you would say that this person is identifying as trans, but they're obviously not because they don't have the brain scans that match.
Right.
That annoys me.
It's like trying to find the gay
immensely.
gene so that
Yeah,
they can try
it's
to
exactly the
eradicate
same
it
thing.
with designer babies.
What do you think,
and
Nels?
then-
Nels hasn't got to say crap. I'm going to let him break in here.
No, I'm gonna wait. I'm withholding judgment on this because I'm still in the learning stages.
Okay, fair enough. Carry on, Jen.
I don't know where I got to. But yeah, I
I know
mean,
I
this is why these people annoy me. That if your idea of quoting science is to post news articles that have been on Fox News or Good Morning Britain, then you've got no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
Or studies from 40 or 50 years ago.
Years ago, you don't know what you're talking about because this is science progresses, science moves on, science looks at the new data and figures this stuff out. This is one of the things that annoys me. You know, recently that trans women were banned from competing in World Rugby because World Rugby took the science data that came out of Kowalski Institute in Sweden. I think I've said the name wrong for the institute. Anyway,
Close enough.
and they did a study that was purely based on leg muscles and purely over a 12-month period. And as we know from the study that was done in the UK, that's probably the worst muscle to look at as deciding whether trans women have an advantage or disadvantage because it's the ones that take the longest to change on hormones.
Right.
They also didn't, when they were, they didn't allow for how much physical activity these trans women did when they started transitioning onwards. They didn't follow they didn't follow any details of their personal lives. The study is erroneous in many ways, which is bad considering this group generally does good studies, but their actions since in trying to stop trans women from competing in sports tells me there was a bit of an agenda there,
Right.
rather than actually the science. But that's beside the point. It does back up what was found in the UK study where they showed that it takes longer for leg muscles to change. The entire decision of the International Rugby Committee was based entirely on this one study. Didn't look at any of the others, despite the fact that the UK one was nearly out as well. And their decision was a blanket ban, which if you look at the tons of other science and what other countries have been doing what Australia and New Zealand have been doing in relation to trans women in sports, and not the US, because the US is a mixed bag depending on what the GOP's doing in a particular state.
Yeah.
I'm about to say, it depends on where you live, what state you live in.
Where you live.
I mean, I tend to give a little bit more credence to the UK study just by the sheer fact that it comes from Turf Island. So, I mean, if Turf Island
Exactly.
is legit, backing up, what trans people have been saying, fucking believe that. Like,
Well,
they would have a reason.
The study still shows that what the IOC was using in saying 12 months on HRT at this level is enough. It still says that's wrong. It still says that the IOC really needs to revise its rules, and it shouldn't just be based on your levels of testosterone, but it needs to be based on how long you've been on hormones and depending on what sport you're in. And that's fine. And it's actually the point I've always argued, that the IOC's rules aren't right. They're not balanced.
Right.
But they were the best compromise they could have at the time. Having said that, we've got better data now, so it's time to look at changes. But blanket bans obviously aren't correct according to the studies we've got.
Right.
But controlled time restrictions make sense, varying for different types of sports. And I think most trans people will go, yeah, that's fine. But I think ultimately we need to look at something bigger than that. We need to go back and go, why are we splitting sports? where do we define fairness, and what do we need to do to make sports in general more fair? And I think if we do that, we're going to come to the point where we go, most sports shouldn't be split down men and women. I mean, let me go with a great big example. Golf. Why the fuck is golf split between men and women?
Yeah, isn't that fucking stupid?
I've never thought of that.
I have played golf. The common saying, if you're a golfer, is you drive for show and you putt for dough. The short game is the most important part of the game when you're playing golf. And there is nothing between the sexes that makes any difference in that. It is all down to skill and knowledge.
Okay, what about bowling? I watch bowling on TV, and they have men and women's league, and it's
see, they do. You're right. They have that for pool, for shooting pool.
Oh, darts. Darts.
Really?
Not
here.
Why? Why?
I mean, they also have co-ed leagues too. But the point is, the bottom line is, men want to go off and feel like they're men. And women want to just show that they're fucking good at that shit.
There's an element of this for women too. That sports is also a communal thing, and sometimes it's nice to just get out with the girls and do this thing, which is just the girls.
Yeah.
But if your argument is that, there is absolutely zero reason to exclude trans women.
Yep.
From women's sports.
You can bowl in a bowling league anytime, Jen.
I'll bowl with you. I love bowling.
Before the pandemic, it was like the one physical activity thing that I did. We bowled on a Saturday night bowling league. So
you see, I miss bowling. I used to
love
go
bowling. I mean, I suck at it. My score is usually like 73. I'm not fucking lying.
Do you know?
If it's a game and it's not like sporty game, like I used to be pretty good at basketball and volleyball and softball and all that.
I had almost a 170 average.
Oh no, my average is like 75. I'm not even fucking kidding.
So mine shot up when I quit drinking.
That happened to me with pool. I got worse at pool when I quit drinking all the time.
Oh yeah,
I did eventually learn how to curve the ball.
Fun fact, though, pro tip, if you're out bowling, make sure that whatever hand you bowl with is not the hand you eat with. Eat with your other hand to keep your bowling hand clean. That way the ball's not like slipping off your hand.
No, use a fork. I don't even care if it's pizza. Cut that shit up.
Yeah, but if
and
you're
if
eating
you
buffalo
don't
wings,
own your own ball,
French fries are the culprit.
Don't get too heavy a ball. It's not about how heavy the fucking ball is, and all you're going to do is hurt yourself if you try and bowl with a ball that's too heavy.
Oh, I usually bowl with like a smaller guy-sized ball.
That is some life advice right there. I've thrown my shoulder out trying to impress people.
I bowled with a 14.
I'm trying to impress myself. Fuck everybody else. What, Kitty?
My ball was 14. My sister, who bowled on the bowling league in her high school, she actually bowled with a 16. And like, she's smaller than me, but she was bowling, every day after school, like all the practice and everything like that. And that's what worked for her. But yeah,
if you get used to it, a 16 is quite comfortable to bowl with if you get used to it. But it's hellish to learn to bowl on.
I'm going to tell you, I cannot bowl with less than like a 14 or something like that because my hand doesn't fit in the fucking ball.
Yeah, that's why you buy your own.
I have the same problem. I have a giant hand.
See, I have the same problem as you, but that's why you buy your own ball and you have the holes bored out.
I'm like, how are women putting their fingers in there? I'm like this going, and it's just
because they don't hold the ball properly. And that's often the reason why people struggle to bowl, because you get a smaller, lighter weight ball. It's generally being drilled for someone who's a teenager.
Yeah, or a kid, or a small woman.
And the hand size is smaller, so you end up holding
prejudice.
it. You don't hold it with
That's fucking prejudice.
Holding the bowling ball with the tips of your fingers. You shouldn't have your fingers all the way in the holes.
Oh no, I couldn't get my fingers in there at all. They just touch the end of my fingers and stop. I can't even get the tip of my finger in there.
Yeah,
like that's the problem I have. That's what she said.
You only hold up to like just around the first knuckle when you're holding a bowling ball.
That's what she said. I couldn't even get my fingers in there. Never mind.
My thumb does go all the way into the ball, but only
that's because
this part
you spin
of my
off your thumb. That's because you spin off the thumb.
But my fingertips, only literally that much of my fingertip is actually in the ball. Like you can see my first knuckle above it.
It's amazing how much better it is when you've got a ball that's been properly drilled for you, because you can hold a ball that's a heavier weight then, because it's the right. You're not.
Look, I got so many
When
jokes
the balls
right now.
are the right
Will,
size,
it's
you
so
need
hard
to.
for me to not say anything.
I'm remembering.
Yeah.
When I lived in,
keep your
taking
balls
my drill
clean
and I like
when they're
taking my
going
big
down the greasy
power
runway.
drilling balls.
Yeah.
when I
Clean your
lived in
balls.
when I lived in Oregon, I had an ex-girlfriend who told me, she was like, we need something to do on Thursdays. There's this bowling league. I've been in it for years. Why don't you come down? And she was trying to sell it to me. And I'm like, I don't want to be in a bowling league. And she looked at me and she's like, we drink about 4 to 5 pitchers every night. I'm like, sign me up. Give me a jersey.
I'm gonna bowl, bitches.
But
You've seen The Big Lebowski.
I fell in love with bowling, though. Like, besides just getting hammered every Thursday, like I fell in love with it. Oh, it was the community.
It's like it's social. Yeah, there's good people there. But usually, you don't usually go into a bowling alley and find an asshole unless he's the one guy down at the end who's bowling by himself because he's practicing because he's gonna go pro one day. Now that guy's an asshole, but pretty much everybody in a bowling alley is really chill.
I was about to say, I know an owner of a bowling alley, and he's a really chill person.
Cool.
Yeah, no, I love going to the bowling alley. It is a fun social activity. Like I would go on league nights and have fun, and then every now and again I'd go another night during the week, just hang out with some people. Or they had Moonlight Bowling, which was it's not Cosmic Bowling. No, Moonlight Bowling was bowling for money. You paid $15, and they had colored pins in there. And if you got a colored head pin, depending on the color, if you got the strike, you got money. If you left a split and you picked it up, you got money. And then they had raffle tickets you could buy, so that if your number got called, they would set up a shot for you. And if you could make it, you got money. One night, my raffle ticket got called, and I had to get a strike and then pick up a spare. And if I did, I would have won $1,200.
Oh.
I got the strike, and the spare they set up for me was the 410. I hit the 4.
I can't ever do that.
The 10 wobbled and then just said, fuck you, I'm not going down. Everybody in the bowling alley let out this, like they were so upset for me that the damn pin didn't fall over.
That's awful.
Look, I get a 410 split. If I get a 410 split, I just aim for 4 and take it and just walk away. Because I know I'm not getting that goddamn split. I know I'm not.
It's not an easy split.
I don't even try. I just shoot for one of them and walk away. I'm done.
It's not the hardest split to get, but it is not easy.
No, that is the hardest one, I think.
Then 10. The 2 in the back.
The 2 in the back is the hardest.
What 2 are in the back?
Somewhat up. Those are 7 and 10 are the 2.
7, 10. I'm sorry. That's what I was
4, 10. The 4 is slightly up from the 7.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
Have you ever seen anyone get a 7-10, Kitty?
I've seen it once at League. And I've seen people bowl perfect games at League, too.
I watched bowling on
someone
TV.
Get a 7-10 though.
I have.
I've seen it twice in person. 2 times.
Yeah, I've seen it done where they clip the inside edge and they bounce it off the outside and have it come back.
So, B, in your travels, you've been to Reno? You've been to Reno?
No.
You've never been to, so in Reno?
Well, in a truck, drove through it. I drove through Vegas, around Vegas too.
Reno has a PBR stadium that the bowling alley it's basically a bowling alley with a stadium around it. If you ever in Reno, you should go. It's just awesome to watch. You're around a bunch of drunk people. It's an experience.
So like every other bowling alley in the U.S. Okay, check.
You'll get professional bowlers, and there's like 10,000 people in the stadium.
Oh shit!
Yeah, it's a professional. It's the only one I've ever seen. Of course, it's in the state of Nevada.
My grandfather.
I was impressed.
My grandfather used to, we'd watch bowling. He'd take me to the bowling alley. He's the one who got me interested in it in the first place. And I actually know people who have played at Reno.
Reno's a big deal.
We are so
Yeah.
going bowling, Kitty.
Oh, I would love it. Like it's like the one thing that I pay a massive pain tax for it, and I'm like locked up and not having a good time for like 2 days after league night, but I don't care because I'm not going to let my pain take everything I love away from me. So
Right.
it's one of those things like I've accepted that I'm never going to be without pain, and certain things that I do are going to cause me more pain, but I will push through it for the enjoyment of it because that is my little act of defiance against my condition, my disability, so that I don't let it win,
Oh,
There are 3 sports I love: bowling. I love playing pool. I'm gonna count it as a sport. Pool or billiards, or snooker, anything on a pool
Yeah.
table.
Snooker's hard, but it is fun.
Snooker is hard. It's good fun though. Yeah, I love netball. I used to play netball a lot. And,
Basketball?
I'm crap at basketball. I cannot.
But no, wait a
dribble to
minute.
save
What's
myself.
netball?
Netball? Okay. Netball is similar to basketball. There's no backboard, so you have to get your shots accurate through the net.
Oh, wow.
There are set play positions, so you actually have set shooters and defenders in a center.
Okay.
And you cannot dribble. You can't run with the ball. So when a pass is made to somebody, they're only allowed one extra step. After that, it's traveling. And the
That's
ball passes them.
interesting.
So-
I want to
So
play
you
this.
have
Tell me
to.
more.
So the game is real. You'd think it'd be a stop-start game, but it's really quick. Basically, it's a pass the ball and it's straight off. The person is more or less passing off to somebody else. It's a very fast game. You get a lot of ankle injuries in it though because of that stop.
It
Because
sounds
of
like
that.
basketball meets rugby.
Well, it's not contact, so it's not really like rugby.
Right.
It is a very different game.
Hey, I
Um,
played tackle basketball. That shit hurts, man.
Okay,
And
real
we used to
quick.
play growing
I
up.
don't mean to interrupt, but Chris is going back in the other room to keep an eye on my son. Can we get like an F in the chat because we made homemade pickles and when he made these spicy maple habanero ones and he ate the habaneros, but he didn't wash his hands well enough and he touched his face and so now his eyes all crying and his face is burning. So can we
Oh.
just get some condolences for him?
Oh,
Aw.
Oh.
everybody together. Oh, big hug.
Thank you.
Big
Okay,
hug.
carry on
Rub
with the
the
conversation.
back.
I wanted him to
back,
see the
pat.
collective sorry, that
Gently
that
pat.
happened before he left.
Hey, I'll have
they-
you know, I was making dinner one night with jalapenos. I'm sorry, my girlfriend would kick my ass. It's jalapeno. It's jalapeno, you know? So I was using jalapenos and I was cutting them up, and actually it might have been like something hotter, but it was a green. Anyways, a hot green pepper. That's all I remember.
Yeah.
So I cut it up and everything and made the dinner and washed my hands like 4 times. Went to take my contacts out. There was still juice by the edge of my finger.
Oh,
And I went to pull it out and I squished my finger right in my eye.
You
In
meased
both
yourself.
eyes. Oh no, it gets worse because I pulled one out and I was like, oh, put it in there. Went to pull the other one out. That one started hurting. It was too late. My finger was already in my eye.
Oh, honey.
So both my eyes, like swollen, red, teary.
And then you put an eye wash.
No, that
Yeah,
shit.
you-
Oh, I
You
flushed
just
them out.
maced yourself,
It
essentially.
So
didn't matter. That oil is not coming out of your eye. What are you gonna do? Put Dawn in your eye? It's an
When-
oily substance. You
when
can
I was-
flush it all you
Yeah.
want. That shit ain't coming out.
No, it's
Wear
not.
gloves when cutting spicy stuff.
That's what I do from now on, baby.
Fuck yeah. Fool
'Cause
me
I like my
once.
contacts. I like my
Shame on
eyeballs.
you. Fool me twice. Shame on me. Wear fucking gloves.
You know what I did recently at work? Oh my god, bad contact story. So I at work we have stainless steel in the elevator and in the apartments, and if we flip an apartment, I have to go in there. I'll wipe off the refrigerator and everything to make it look good so the people that are viewing it before the cleaners come in, right? So I had that shit on my hand. Went to lunch. My contact fell out of my eye. Well, what do? You just catch it and stick it back in? I had lemon scented stainless steel cleaner in my eye. My eye got goopy and infected for like 3 days. Yeah.
I
And
won't
the
have
fact that it
contact.
only lasted 3 days, it was only really bad for like a day and a half.
So
But
I have
by day 4, it was cleared up. But oh my God, dude, I have gloves. I put on gloves and then I have the rag in a glove. Like, I'm not playing. I'm not doing
So
that
about
shit.
2 years ago, I'm in charge of 23 vehicles at my job, and we have old trucks that are just old. And I was trying to fix up a truck.
How
and
old are they? Go ahead.
They're like from the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Okay.
So we fix them up and sell them. So
Okay.
I see this old corroded battery. So I'm cleaning around the battery terminals, and I had a wire brush, and I'm scrubbing. I get my face in there. I got old corrosive battery acid in my eye.
Oh,
Oh.
fuck.
I honestly, I'm going to tell you, I still to this day don't think my eye has fully healed.
Ugh.
Still to this day. And I got
Okay.
it
We're going
directly
back to the old conversation. Will won. Will won.
Still to this day. And when I was younger, I was, believe it or not, I was doing some dumb shit. I had mace in my pocket, and I had it in the same, this is back in the Janko era. So I had mace and an inhaler in the same pocket. And I'm fidgety. I'm really fidgety. I'm a really fidgety person. This was
I never noticed.
before coffee, because I'm even more fidgety now because of coffee. So all day long, I'm playing with the back and forth with the mace, all day long. It's about 7 or 8 at night. After months of doing this, I grabbed my inhaler and I maced my throat.
Oh.
Let's just say I'm lucky that my father knew CPR, because he ran right up. He's like, "You're a dumbass," and he hit me right on my chest and opened up my lungs. Oh yeah, he knew what to do. But like he saw me.
Because that's exactly. I don't know if anybody knows. If nobody's encountered mace before, maybe you haven't. You've never sprayed it. That shit constricts your airway.
Oh, you're done. Oh,
And
I'm done.
literally,
Like your eyes water.
you are
can't
tears,
see.
snot,
Not
and it
coming.
is. I've been maced. It is.
Me too.
It is not.
Well,
fun.
I was in the army, so I went through the gas chamber, but
Mhm.
same diff. Just depends on how much shit you're getting in one. You're like your sinuses open up. You'll have like strings of snot like 4 foot
Yeah, it
long
is
when you
not
come out of the
cute.
gas chamber. Yeah,
Not
it's not
cute
okay.
at all.
And it
I got-
burns, man.
I got
Well,
maced
it
at the
sucks.
Democratic National Convention when they had it in LA, and Rage Against the Machine played. The
Well,
cops,
that's why you
they-
got maced.
The cops got mad. No, because all of a sudden,
like
like
them.
it went from no one being there to like there was like 5,000 people just because the word got out. Like Rage is playing for free, and the cops came and they maced everybody. They maced little kids. Like it was awful. It was.
Oh my
awful.
God.
Kids.
Because the cops don't give it. They, riot patrol police don't give an F. They were doing it during the
I
protest.
don't understand your police at all, because I mean in Australia, we had problems in the past with corrupt police and issues like that, and we had commissions into it, and we had changes made in the way our police forces work. So now, if you've got a police officer who colossally fucks up, they will get suspended. But they're not just suspended in the little area where they work; they're suspended throughout Australia. They cannot fucking work.
They should go to fucking
As a
jail
police
here. If I maced a kid, they would put me
Oh,
in
they
prison.
colossally fuck up like that, they would end
They
up
would,
in jail.
if I did that, they'd put me in prison. So there's a disparity there.
Yeah,
It's
it
a
seems to
definite
me
double
that
standard.
becoming a police officer in the US is more about a power trip than it is about wanting to serve and
That's with
protect.
everything, honey. That is with everything in the United States. Everything is a power trip.
So it's
CEOs are on a constant
Yeah.
power trip. The government is on a power trip. Everybody here, it's all about two things. It's how big does my dick feel today, and how much money's in my pocket.
Oh,
And that's it.
and try
My
to
husband
repay.
worked for the TSA, so
And that's the thing that I, as an Australian, don't get about stuff in the. I understand so much of your stuff. I understand that quite a bit of your stuff more than I understand about the UK stuff, because I find the UK's attitude to a lot of things just so fucking backward. But
So
the
here
things
is
that power trip idea that you have in the US doesn't exist in Australia. We
See,
are
but what
the Australian base idea is I don't give a shit.
I wish we had that here. People get disenfranchised and then they become cops or paramedics. They put themselves in a place of control.
Let's see, the people I've met in Australia The people I know who wanted to become cops because they wanted to serve other people, wanted to help, wanted to make things better. And the same for people who became nurses or paramedics or whatever else. It wasn't about a power trip. It's like, how can I help other people? They were all altruistic.
I used to think that until my ex-wife's husband told me a horror story about how he got treated at a hospital because he's black. I used to think that about nurses too, but he was fully convulsing and everything. They wouldn't it was just bad. He got treated very different than other people, and they almost let him die. They basically almost let him die at the hospital.
Saw that black doctor that she had COVID and she fucking died. She was telling the fucking white doctor was like, yeah, well, you're fine, you can go. And she records the fucking live stream on Twitter or something where you can hear her struggling to breathe. And she was like, look, I don't think it is safe in my medical opinion, it is not safe for me to go home yet. The fucking doctor released her anyway, and she died 2 days later.
Yeah.
A black doctor, someone who knows the terminology, who knows the treatment protocols, who can advocate for themselves, and still they get treated, differently in the medical care system. John Oliver did an excellent fucking episode of his show last week tonight talking about the bias in medicine. And if people haven't seen it, I highly recommend you go watch it. I mean, it shows not only that there are still some really outdated racist beliefs that racist and bigoted beliefs that some doctors still hold to, like that black people have thicker skin and a higher pain tolerance and all this other stuff. But the fact that, women, black people, and especially black women, are the least likely to be prescribed necessary opiates or care that they need to keep them alive.
And there's
I gotta throw something in on that. Do you know who is the most likely out of everybody to get painkillers? Anybody know?
White male.
No.
White males. Yeah.
White male. Because honestly, they know that men have a lower pain tolerance, so they're slower to give it to women. but they sympathize more with the white guy. That's the white dude.
That's insane.
The white male that is in pain. They give them whatever they need.
There's also a Scientific American article. It's called "If You're Black, Don't Get Cancer." You should read it. It's an eye-opening article.
I've got a question then. Is there a thing for black people that when you go to a doctor, that especially if they're not a black doctor, that they might think that your illness is somehow related to the fact that you're black?
And it depends on where
I think it depends on what city you're in. Yeah.
Because in LA, it's fairly integrated. So there's I really don't get that vibe here. There was in Oregon, I thought this one doctor was I got this really bad vibe. I got anxiety and I left. So it just depends on the area.
The reason I asked that is because there's this thing in trans healthcare where there a lot of doctors, if you're a trans person, you go in because of whatever ailment they will go, oh, it's because you're trans. I know somebody who got a broken arm, went to see their doctor, and the doctor said, oh, we'll have to take you off hormones now because it's the hormones that caused your broken arm. And she goes, what? It's the fact I fell off my fucking push bike that broke my arm.
I did.
Hormones broke your arm?
Hormones broke your arm.
I did have a doctor. I had a doctor tell me that asthma is inherent in black people, and I should just accept my lot in life.
I have known more white people have asthma than any. No,
I was like a dumb 24-year-old kid. I just needed medicine. I just said, just sign the script so I can get my inhaler.
Give me that shit so I can breathe.
Give me my inhaler. I'll just say whatever the hell you want.
Cis white men get the best treatment, and black women get the worst treatment. But women just in general get worse treatment in a clinical doctor setting. When I was in 7th grade, I tripped over a backpack in the middle of class and actually broke my arm. I landed in a really weird way, and I broke my arm in the middle of a test. So I went to the nurse's office. First thing she did was take my temperature, which I'm like, why. Like my arms all swollen and everything like that. And then she sits there going like this, flopping my arm every which way. Like, well, it doesn't appear to be broken. Like my mom brought me to the doctor after that. They did x-rays. Like come back in the next day. My arm is in a nice bright pink cast. My mom marches me over to the fucking nurse's office, gets right up in her face, lifts my arm in front of her and says, "Are you allergic to kryptonite, bitch? You waving it around like a fish out of water, like made it worse." Like kind of the whole, do you have x-ray vision thing? You know, like, oh, my mom was pissed.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. The more in a minority you are, the less likely you are to get good medical treatment, is what it seems to be.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not good if you're in a minority. I don't know that it's as bad here as it is like in the UK or even in places in America, but that's mostly because our healthcare system in Australia is pretty much free. So doctors will treat people because they're going to get paid regardless. And, it makes no difference who they're treating. But you still get that thing that people are just so ignorant about things involved with race or minorities like trans people or gay and lesbian people, that you will get doctors saying, oh, it's because of this minority trait that you have that's causing your ailment or whatever condition you're walking with. And it was just mental. And that thing of the trans woman who broke her arm riding her bike was just drove it home to me. I was like, this is ridiculous. This is the state of education of some medical people.
Fucking ridiculous.
Or like uninsured lesbians being forced to pay for a pregnancy test, before they'll do an x-ray because they're of childbearing age, rather than just saying, I don't need a pregnancy test. I know there is a 0% chance that I am pregnant because I have had zero interactions with, the opposite gender or done anything that could get me pregnant, but you still have to fucking go and pay for, the cost, if you don't have insurance, of the pregnancy test before they'll do the x-ray.
Not always true. Because I'm going to tell you, every doctor I've ever seen and any kind of thing I've had to do, they have never done that to me. They say, is there any chance that you're pregnant? And I say, Doc, if I'm pregnant and we're both be rich, I'll split the money with you, because I haven't been with a man since 2000 or whatever it was at the time, 1999. And they believe me. They actually believe me.
I get asked it all the time as well. Are you sure you're not pregnant? We can't risk it if you're pregnant. But even worse than that, in relation to what you said, I had to go and have a angio scan where they inject the dye in you, and they also slow down your heart rate.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't be pregnant for that because it will fuck up the child, etc.
Right.
And they wanted to send me off for a whole heap of pregnancy tests for that, and I said, well, that's fucking pointless.
So here's my point about bias. Now that you said that, thank you for strong manning me, because you just did.
Yeah.
Or steel manning me. So the thing is I think that women that look more girly, that say they're lesbian, they think, oh, you're bisexual. So you could still be having sex with a guy.
Having sex with a guy,
and lesbians that are more dykey like me, they're like, oh yeah, no, you're not letting a guy fuck you.
Yeah.
So they just believe us.
Even when
it's no different than looking at the color of someone's skin. They're biased.
I said I'm trans, they said, yeah, but you could still be pregnant. I'm like,
yeah. That was the best.
I'm going to take that as a compliment.
Screenshot that. Get
right off.
That was the best fucking look on Jen's face just now. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah, you get some good ones. I've legitimately had a doctor say to me who I hadn't seen before, and I had to explain I was trans because it actually made a difference to because to the blood tests I was going to have because of being on HRT. And they go,
right.
Oh, so you're taking testosterone and you're going to go, no.
No.
And I mean, two things like, this is fucking frustrating, but that's an awesome compliment.
I had the exact same thought as Maya. I had the exact same thought. Yeah, I would try to get that person fired.
But they're not educated.
I would get that person fired. I'd go full Karen.
Not my regular GP, and I'm going to have to get a new GP now. I'm shifting as well, but not my regular GP. But I had to see a different one because she was on holidays. and I was talking to her about stuff, and I mentioned that I'm intersex and the condition I have in intersex, and she goes, I have no idea what any of those terms mean. Hang on, you're a doctor. You studied this for what, 6 or 7 years. How do you not know what intersex is? How do you not understand these terms? What were you studying?
Hell if I know.
It's one thing for like a layman to not know. Like if I were to say I don't know what
Exactly.
intersex means or I don't know what trans means. Okay, cool. I'm not a medical professional, so that's fine. You know, explain away. But yeah, like if you're a fucking medical professional and you don't understand, sure, it's rare. Like intersex is very rare, but so are lots of other conditions that doctors learn about.
I totally get if they don't understand what my intersex condition is. That's fine, because mine's particularly rare anyway, and there's so many different type forms of intersex. I totally get the doctor would have to go and look that up if that was important to what we were talking about.
Right.
But to not know what intersex meant just blew my mind. A doctor had no idea what I was talking about. It was like, what did you... And this wasn't an old doctor. She was fairly young. And I'm like, how do you not know this stuff? I've been to GPs whose only knowledge of anything to do with trans people was what they saw on television, medical shows. And I'm like, why? Why is this the case? How is this not even slightly covered for 5 minutes during your training? You are most likely, as a GP, going to encounter a trans person at some point in your career. Why? Yep. Why aren't you trained in this?
But in America, we give someone like 3 months of training and expect them to be lawyers on the streets, and we call them cops.
So real quick,
right?
I'm going to share a cute. I want to share a cute because, like, we've talked about some heavy, depressing things. The little AirPod case that I got for Chris is Num Num the donut.
Num 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 Num.
Right now, I want a
Little Chica
donut.
Num Num
Okay, we're
the
ending the
donut.
stream. I gotta go get a donut. No, I'm kidding.
I'm going to have to get going because I still have to unload the car and I have to get down and pick up this thingy bed from my brother and get some stuff to do the fence.
Cool.
I've
Go
got
do
work
it.
to do, and I'm avoiding it because I'm still sore from yesterday.
I was about to say, you've been here for a while. You've been here for a while.
I have, because I don't want to get up and do anything. I am fucking knackered.
Well, if I could figure out how to teleport, you know, like I'd come over there and then I would just teleport all of the things where they need to go.
It'd be so cool if we could teleport. The world would be just...
Oh, if I was there,
Australia.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd teleport B and Will over, and they could help me fix that ceiling.
I haven't done.
I'd have that shit done in a few hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Godhood already. I need my god powers to kick in, and then I can just fix all of the shit that, you know, the idiot that created the place apparently, supposedly, allegedly, all the fucking bullshit that you know monster left. No, I would fix all of it like that.
I got my toolboxes behind me. I'm ready to go.
Dude, my shit's in my truck. I don't even have to. I can just drive away.
Put a big crate around my house.
I literally have like ladders and everything in the back of my truck. I can paint. I can
in the
build.
case of zombie apocalypse B, I
destroy.
Need you to come
Destroy
my
is
way.
fun.
Oh, that's fun.
I so wish we lived close to be. You and I could have a hell of a lot of fun destroying, fixing. I was going to say destroying that land room, but fixing it.
I work cheap. You just have to like feed me and possibly give me alcohol if I'm in the mood. That's how I work.
That actually sounds like fun day.
Yeah, just meat and taters and something to drink afterwards. I'm good. Coffee while I work.
Seriously, I would actually like to have a go at fixing it myself because I think I could do it.
I think you can too.
And even if it came down to later on having to put a suspended ceiling in underneath, well, that's something I can do later. It doesn't have to be an expense right now.
I have a question for you. That pop out that's destroyed, is that a mantle or something?
Yeah, it's part of. There's a chimney there because there's a
is there a mantle and like fireplace deal, or is the fireplace on the other side?
No, that's where the mantle is. My plan there was just to cover over the top.
This is what I think you should do. Pull that piece out and all the stuff around that top of that mantle and that U shape, effectively, take all that off. And then when you fix up the mantle, get trim that matches the mantle and put that around the top, and it won't matter that it's different than the rest of the room. It'll look great.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I could just cut the corner because it's cornered. I'll take some photos for you later, B. But it's cornered in from the rest of the corner seam.
Right.
Corner
Just
seam,
take
that's
the
what
two.
it's fucking called. So
Just
if
take
I
the
cut
two side pieces off and that front piece, and put trim up that matches your mantle.
so I could put wood. I could put a wood
Yeah,
trim
just
up
put up
around
wood.
the
It'll
top.
look fine because the mantle's a separate entity in the room. And if you want to make it look really nice, paint it a slightly different color.
All I had
I would
thought-
suggest
I mean,
slightly brighter, probably.
What I actually had thought of doing with the mantelpiece was instead of putting plasterboard, I was thinking of just putting a covering over the top of the plaster that's there. What I was actually thinking was getting plywood and covering it in plywood and then staining it all the one color.
Oh God, no! Don't do that. That would be really expensive because the good plywood that you can stain is that shit. I don't know about there, but here that shit's like $60 a board.
Yep.
That's AC ply.
Yeah, it would be cheaper for you to just cut that part out, put new board up, and get it all sealed in, and then just paint it.
I can get enough marine ply that is stainable to cover that area for about $80.
Really?
Yeah.
Joint tape and drywall.
Yes, drywall will be easier. That's
I'm a demo kind of guy. If I was there, I would literally take the whole ceiling down and just redo it because it would be easier, you know.
That's why I was just telling her just to cut along the ceiling joist.
Well,
right down the middle.
I don't even have to do that. As you saw with the photo of it, it's got the beading. It's not they haven't. It's not mudded in the gaps. It's got beading over it, so I can actually take the beading off, replace the whole sheet that's knackered, and just put the beading back up for now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I don't have to find where the joists are because the joists have to be where the beading is because it has to be nailed in.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about the beading. Yeah, you don't have to look for the joists. You know right where to cut it. Yeah, it's probably not even. It might not even be mudded. You might be able to just pull the damn screws out of the sides.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's screwed or nailed. I'd have to have a look.
Well,
the only hassle I have with that is I know the timber framing is all Jarrah, so it's all hardwood, and it's going to be a bitch to put nails back into.
Well, yeah.
Because Jarrah goes super. I think it would be a case of drilling holes and putting screws in. I don't think I'd be able to nail it.
Yeah, well, no, you don't want to nail it anyways. It should never be nailed. It's supposed to be screwed.
Screwed.
Screws you can always
when in doubt, screw it. That's what I say.
Screw it.
Yeah, screw it.
But I will take some more pictures later, B, and I'll share them with you and Will, and you guys can give me some feedback.
Yeah, I'll hook you up.
Awesome.
I would definitely suggest painting. If you paint that mantle and you don't stain it, paint it a different color than the rest of the room.
Yeah, and well, it's stained at the moment.
Just go one shade different. No, not in the mantle, but the whole piece up and down. If you paint it
different color.
Just paint it one shade or two shades off of whatever color you're doing the rest of the room. It'll look amazing.
Make it a feature, and that way it doesn't have to have the same corner.
If you can't hide it, highlight it.
She's got it. She's got it, by George. She's got it.
Yeah. All right, that makes sense.
Cool. All right.
Well, thank you. I googled.
No worries. I will catch you all later. I'll let everybody know how I go with shifting everything. I'm not looking forward to this at all. Bye.
Thanks for coming in. Love you.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye.
Justin's in the chat. Hi, Justin. How the hell are you? That's right. Sandy said it right. This is it right here. When in doubt, drill and screw.
Damn right.
That's what the fuck I'm talking about.
That advice has gotten me in trouble, though, so use discretion.
Wait a minute. Somebody's making linguine with clams with what sauce, and you didn't invite me? Fuck you, Dave. What do you say? Meat sauce. Well, whatever. I don't care. It's pasta. It's good. Anyway, so I guess a bunch of other people are going live right now, and so I'm probably going to kill the stream for the night, and unless somebody has something to say. Anybody got anything to say?
No, I should go to bed early. So
Don't kid yourself.
I know.
My God, bed early. 7:28. It's 6:28 there. That's really early.
Well, it's what happens is my son gets picked up and goes to his mom's house on the weekend, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm wide awake, I'm ready to party, even though I'm exhausted.
Right. Yeah, that's how I do it normally, Justin. Absolutely.
So I'll probably end up
Anyways.
falling asleep on the couch.
Hold on, I'm trying not to sneeze in my mic. All right, I'm fine. I swear to God.
Because I'm tired.
Anyways, thanks for coming in, guys. I appreciate it. And everybody in the chat that hung out and stuck with it, I appreciate that too. You guys are always fun to talk to and a good time. I was going to go a little bit longer, but honestly, I'm fucking hungry now. We were talking about like steak and donuts. I got to go eat dinner, man.
I have donuts on top of my fridge, so.
Shut up. I'm sorry. What, Nels? What'd you say, Nels?
Hot peppers.
Hot peppers? That sounds good,
yeah,
too.
we were talking about hot peppers before.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was eyeball stuff. That wasn't yummy eat food stuff. Yeah, no, that was bad.
Food nightmares.
Really horrible pain. Face under the sink. Not enough water in the world to do anything to it. Yeah, it sucked. Yeah, tell him, Justin. Like that video and subscribe. Huh?
At least it was not when he was taking his contacts out. Like, I mean, when he touched his face. Like, it was mostly his face and less his eye. But his eye is watering a little bit. But now he can scrub really, really well before he takes his contacts out tonight. So
Right. That'd be a good idea. Yeah. Wait a minute. He's got contacts in still and he's got pepper juice in his eye?
Oh, he rinsed out his eye and washed his face. For the most part, it was...
No, that's
it didn't get in his eye. He got around his eye.
Oh, okay. So it was like with contacts, that'll just hold that shit against it, and
no. It was like the skin around his eye that got it. Like, 'cause he didn't touch his actual eye, which is why it was like, okay, his skin was not happy with it, like around his eye, like mostly.
Yeah, because I've done that stainless steel cleaner, man. You want to get that contact out of there, seriously.
Yeah, no. If it had gotten in his actual eye, then I would have told him, yeah, definitely, go take those out.
All right, cool. Anyways, thank you all for coming.
Awesome.
Will, thank you for coming back. Nels, thank you for coming. Even though you're my little temporary, sometimes part-time, quiet co-pilot, I still appreciate you. And Kitty, I love you. I wish you would be. It'd be nice to see you, man. Yeah, Kitty, and I love you, and thanks for coming. And everybody, take care of one another. Be good, be respectful, and be at peace.